Okay, before I start the second part of this series, this discussion, I wanted to raise one super brief but super important point. As many of you know right now in Ireland, about 70% of Irish still have not paid the property tax, although the deadline is today to pay the property tax that is going to support basically another banker bailout. So, as we all know, as Simon Johnson, the former chief economist at IMF, wrote after he retired, the quiet coup, which I'll put the link to the URL below, that all prime ministers and presidents today, everywhere around the world, are basically puppets for the Western banking cartel. So the bankers are in control of all government. So as we all know, whether they're bailouts in Greece, whether they're bailouts in Ireland, there's a troika behind that. The EU, the ECB, the European Central Bank, and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. So I believe it's super important to show solidarity against any any movements of resistance to tyranny. If you have a Twitter account, I urge you to tweet your support for the Irish citizens that are refusing to pay, again, this another immoral tax in effort to destroy their wealth in Ireland. And of course, I support and stand in solidarity with any resistance movement against any injustices in the world, whether it's against the trampling of property rights, say, in Mexico, of the poor, which has been going on for the past decade. That's been initiated by the government and the banksters down there. Or whether it's the banksters that are reaping havoc in Spain and Portugal, Romania, South America, China, doesn't matter, anywhere in the world. Please show solidarity, and we can win this battle by resisting and by educating. Okay, now on to part two. Hello, this is part two to the world's greatest magic trick. If you haven't seen part one, I will put the link in the video description below, so check it out. And basically, what I am doing in this two-part series is discussing the various gold myths that central bankers have propagated through the academia system, through the media, to get people to internalize very false beliefs about gold and silver that actually prevent them from protecting their own wealth and converting fiat currency into physical gold and physical silver, which they should be doing now. Okay, so continuing this series, here's another big myth we see all the time. That gold is a risky asset, right? Okay, well, if gold is such a risky asset, then why has it increased over 560% in the last 11 years from $250 an ounce to over $1660 an ounce? And why has silver, likewise, if it's such a risky asset, increased from $4 an ounce to about $33 an ounce right now, a 720% increase? So certainly, you know, we never see these so-called experts about assets and wealth management on TV, whether it's on Bloomberg or Reuters or CNBC or whatever propaganda distribution channel you want to see or you regularly visit to get your news out there. You never see any of these so-called financial experts and financial analysts say that, oh, don't invest in the U.S. stock market because it's so risky, even though the U.S. stock market over that comparable period is still negative over the last 11 years. It hasn't even returned a profit, but yet they're saying these assets that returned over 560% and over 725% are so risky. Let me tell you why. Because these bankers play this trick because they teach you, just like diversification is a total scam, and that the big investment firms like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, Citigroup, wherever you're at, wherever in the world, they will tell you that diversification is the way to go, but it really is just a cover for the ineptitude of the financial consultants that they hire that have no idea what assets are going to outperform every year, so they got to put you in every single thing where you're guaranteed to be in sectors that are going to lose money. And I think that's like ridiculous. It's just a cover for the fact that they don't know what they're doing, and they're just there to use your money to make money for their firm, and they don't really give a damn about you ever making money. So it's the same thing as far as when they say volatility is equal to risk. So they spread this nonsense that volatility is equal to risk. And they capitalize on that, the bankers do, or the banksters, by making gold and silver volatile every year. So it does, you know, gold and silver experience these manipulated periods during every single year, usually 2 or 3 times a year, will fall pretty rapidly, and then it rises again. But every year ends up positive for the past decade. Every year, gold and silver both end up positive. So they just use this false volatility, manufactured volatility, to get people to assume that it's risky. When every year, by the end of the year, it's up, and you can't even begin to say that for the world's developed markets like the FTSE in London, the ASX 200 in Australia, or the S&P 500 in the US, all of which have not performed well over the past 10 or 11 years, and you throw in inflation, and then you're highly negative. So I don't understand how a logical person, could accept that nonsense that gold and silver is a risky asset when it's the best performing asset over the past decade. Okay, this is another popular myth that is absolutely wrong, that gold is an investment, and for that matter you can apply that to silver too when people say silver is an investment. Gold and silver are not investments. It is money. It is just an alternate form of money. If you go back to the Roman Empire more than 2,000 years ago, 1 ounce gold coin would buy you the same thing back then that a 1 ounce gold coin would buy you today, about the same amount of goods. Now the US dollar, since the inception of the Federal Reserve in 1913, has lost 98.5%, just about, give or take like a %, of purchasing power in less than 100 years, whereas gold has maintained its purchasing power over thousands of years. How are you going to argue against thousands of years? Gold has no third-party counterparty risk. Silver has no third-party counterparty risk. And while true, the banksters have invented these fraudulent paper markets, like fraudulent paper ETFs like the GLD and the SLV that trade on the New York Stock Exchange, and they invented these fraudulent futures markets where they trade hundreds of times or more ounces of gold and silver, and they trade an entire year's supply of silver paper ounces in 1 minute on the COMEX through HFT trading programs. It does not matter, because the physical gold and physical silver cannot be counterfeited. So eventually these fake, bogus paper schemes will collapse, will fail when the dollar fails and when the euro fails. So you will see that gold is not an investment. If you look at gold, physical gold and physical silver from the proper perspective, that it is just money. Just like, you know, if you make the decision to convert your euros into yuan, or dollars into yuan, or any other currency, or euros into British pounds, or British pounds into euros, it's the same thing that you're doing when you're converting your paper or fiat currency into physical gold and physical silver. You're just converting it into another form of money, but the best form of money out there that does not lose its purchasing power due to banker deceit, fraud, and counterfeiting schemes. Okay, now this isn't a myth, this is actually true. Gold pays 0 dividends, but it is a piece of banker propaganda that seems to confuse retirees who always say they need that monthly interest income to live off of. Because I know that commercial investment advisors all around the world convince their clients to stay in much riskier corporate bonds, sovereign nation bonds, because they say, oh, this pays, you know, the monthly interest income you need, and gold does not, silver does not, so don't invest in physical gold and physical silver. And that's a ridiculous argument, because, okay, they'll say you can't invest in gold and silver because it's so volatile, it goes up and down, that's not consistent, and doesn't give you that consistent monthly income. But here's another way to look at it, if you look at it in the proper perspective, and you'll understand why physical gold and physical silver is a much, much superior store of your money. I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that word investment, because gold is really money and silver is really money, not an investment. But it's a much superior store of your money and your wealth than any kind of bond that pays any kind of monthly interest income you can think of. So you can use volatility to your advantage. People always teach you to fear volatility. Well, use it to your advantage. Look at silver this year. Silver went up 28.5% in January and February. Okay, you need your interest income of 10% per year. You take that 10% off the table, you have 18.5% gain that you can just let ride for the rest of the year, and you don't need to worry about that volatility, because gold and silver every year will have periods of massive volatility, not only to the downside, although that's all you ever think about, because that's all the media ever talks about and bombards you with. When gold and the bankers are manipulating gold and silver to the downside, you hear a million stories on TV, on the radio, in newspapers, but whenever it's so volatile to the upside, you don't hear a peep. So how many people are running stories about silver rising 28.5% in January, February of just this year, 2012? In fact, a lot of you watching this video probably didn't even know, because it was absent in the media. So, you know, you can take advantage of those times and just think of, okay, gold doesn't pay a dividend, but it's been up every single year. It's been positive by the end of the year for 11 straight years. Silver has been positive every single year for the past 11 years. So whatever gain gold or silver makes, whether it's 19% a year, 30% a year, okay, set aside 10% of that and consider that your interest income, and you're making up off like a bandit, because you can keep the rest, and you can keep the rest in the market and appreciating along with the rising gold and silver price every single year. That is not a logical reason for any logical human being to use as an excuse not to buy gold and not to buy silver, period. This myth irks me to no end, and I'll tell you why it irks me to no end. People always say, okay, gold bugs are always promoting gold, or silver bugs are always promoting silver, just to promote their book, just to sell their book for their own self-interest. And yeah, I think, you know, I'm making these videos because when people go out there and buy physical gold and physical silver and protect their own wealth, preserve their own wealth, protect their family's future, that I'm making so much money off of these commissions. Oh wait, I forgot. I don't sell any gold. I don't sell any silver. So I'm not making any commissions. I'm not making $1, €1, a penny off of anyone buying physical gold and physical silver. So, and I'm not the only gold bug and silver bug out there that's not making any money. You know, just because people say we're all doing this for self-interest and promoting our book and getting rich off that's ridiculous. It's just a total lie. That's all I have to say. It is a lie, and by the bankers, promoted by banking puppets and banking shills, basically to keep you in their immoral fiat currency system so they can continue basically to rape, pillage, and plunder your wealth. That's why they're telling you that people are doing it. It's almost ironic, because the bankers are telling you this lie for their own self-preservation and self-interest, and for no one else's interest. Because look who's getting rich, right? Look who, you know, basically captured all the income gains in 2010, right? It was the top, like, 0.01% of the wealthiest people, and then the top 1% basically captured everything, and then the 8% got the other 99% of the income gains in 2010. So, don't believe the hype is all I can say. This one irks me to no end, and this is the one that Warren Buffett has so famously quoted so many times, that gold has no use. Now get it through your thick head, Warren Buffett. Gold's best and primary use is as money, and that is a use. And it also has a secondary use. Have you ever heard of jewelry? Have you ever heard of topazes and rubies and sapphires? What other use do they have besides their primary use is jewelry? Do you say that they should be free and they should be sold for 0 cents because there's no use for them? I mean, that is the most ridiculous argument ever. And when you think about it, money is a use. There's a reason why gold has been used as money for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and why every fiat currency in the world has collapsed. Think about that. Gold has been used as money for several thousand years, but yet every fiat currency in history, every empire, whether it was some dynasty in China that used paper currency, whether it was a Weimar Republic in Germany after World War I, where the German mark absolutely collapsed, whether it was more recently in Zimbabwe when you had like a zillion% inflation, and you know, just to buy a bottle of water and a decent meal in a restaurant would cost you like a couple billion Zimbabwe dollars you had, monetary collapse. Every paper currency has collapsed, but yet gold has retained its value over thousands of years, has been used by civilizations because of certain qualities, like it's non-corrosive, it's malleable, so it's easily divisible, it's consistent because 99.99% pure gold, whether it's in London or Paris or Rio de Janeiro, is always going to be the same consistency. So the fact that almost all the gold that's been mined out of the earth has been accumulated, is not used up, has very little industrial purpose, and it is limited. It is truly a precious metal, unlike diamonds that are a semi-precious stone, even by the definition of gemology, is not really a precious stone, and yet people overpay for that and won't pay an undervalued price at $1,660 for gold, and wouldn't even pay undervalued when it was $500 an ounce for gold. The same goes for silver. So, you know, the fact that people always say gold has no use, think about it. Is not money a use? And it is the best use. So that is just a ridiculous, stupid, idiotic argument against gold. And think about why they're trying to keep you invested in the stock market. If you pull $10,000, $30,000, $100,000, $1 million, $10 million out of a JP Morgan, out of a Goldman Sachs, and you invest it into gold, guess who's not earning fees anymore? Guess what firm is not making any money while you're making money? Okay, so that concludes the two-part series I made about the world's greatest magic trick, which is bankers convincing you to use their fake, bogus, counterfeit paper money that they create as digital credits out of thin air, backed by nothing but their word, which is worth less than nothing, and convincing you to use that in everyday transactions as real money, and not to convert their fake money into to physical gold, not paper gold, into physical gold and physical silver, which is real money. So I encourage all of you out there that have not yet bought your first ounce of physical gold or your first ounce of physical silver to go ahead and to do so. And even if you don't agree with everything I say in this video, I also encourage you to please, please, please forward this video on to family, to friends, to acquaintances, to co-workers, because the way we can counter the immoral banking cartel and their destruction of life and their destruction of freedom around the world is to educate people. So even if you don't agree with everything I say and you only agree with parts of it, please pass it on, because it's important to educate people so they can make up their own minds. Every person can make up his mind or her mind about what's true and what's not true, and whether they need to convert their paper fiat currency into physical silver, to physical gold, like I believe is a necessity to surviving the next 5, 6, 7 years in this global economy. So thanks again for watching. You can continue to follow my articles, my thoughts at our YouTube channel, Smart Knowledge U, and my blog, theundergroundinvestor.com. Follow us on Twitter here at Smart Knowledge U. And also remember, please show your solidarity with Irish citizens as they continue to fight the immoral banking cartel in Ireland. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day, and I hope that those of you that have not purchased your first ounce of physical gold and physical silver will do so very shortly. Oh, one last thing I forgot. Please do not forget to comment. Please leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. And also, because comments will raise the visibility of this video and help it to spread across the internet. Okay, so comment below. And until next time, thanks a lot for watching and have a great day. So long.